The morning mist clung to the ancient trees of the whispering grove like ghostly fingers, barely moving in the still air. Marcus Chun adjusted his warm military jacket and checked his scanner one more time. 3 months of tracking, 3 months of following rumors and half-whispered tales from traders in the outer colonies, and finally he had found it. The legendary Dragon's Rest, a place most humans believed was just another alien fairy tale. Marcus had learned long ago not to dismiss alien fairy tales. During his 20-year service in the Terran Defense Corps, he had seen too many myths turn out to be deadly real. The scar running from his left temple to his jaw served as a permanent reminder of the day he had laughed off reports of singing crystals on Kepler 442b. Those crystals had nearly shattered his squadron's minds with their psychic screams. Now, at 45, Marcus was officially retired. Unofficially, he was what the military called a loose asset, someone they could call upon when a situation required his particular set of skills. Skills that included an unusual talent for communicating with non-human species and an even more unusual talent for surviving encounters that killed most other humans. The scanner beeped softly, detecting elevated energy readings ahead. Marcus moved forward carefully, his boots making almost no sound on the carpet of fallen leaves. The forest around him was unlike anything on Earth or the other human colonies. The trees were massive, their trunks easily 40 meters in diameter, with bark that shifted colors in slow, hypnotic patterns. Floating spores drifted through the air like tiny stars, and, somewhere in the distance, he could hear what sounded like whale songs, though no whales had ever existed on this planet. Nexus Prime had been discovered only 15 years ago, but the galactic community had quickly declared it a protected world. The planet was home to dozens of sentient species, most of them so alien that standard translation protocols barely worked. The Galactic Council had established it as a refuge world, a place where endangered species could find sanctuary. What they hadn't advertised was that many of those endangered species were incredibly dangerous. Marcus paused as his scanner detected something massive ahead. The energy signature was unlike anything in his database. It read as both biological and technological, somehow fused together in a way that shouldn't have been possible. He crept forward through a wall of luminescent vines and stopped dead in his tracks. Before him lay the most magnificent creature he had ever seen. The dragon was easily 200 meters long, her scales a deep emerald green that seemed to contain entire galaxies of stars. Her massive head rested on crossed forepaws, each claw the size of a small building. Even in sleep, she radiated power. The very air around her shimmered with energy, and Marcus could feel the hair on his arms standing up from the electrical charge. But something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The dragon's breathing was labored and irregular. Dark veins pulsed beneath her scales, spreading out from what looked like a massive wound in her side. The wound itself was covered by some kind of crystalline growth that pulsed with sickly orange light. Marcus had seen enough battlefield injuries to know infection when he saw it, even on an alien scale. "Mama, please wake up," came a small voice nearby. Marcus spun toward the sound and felt his heart nearly stop. Sitting on a fallen log, not 20 meters away, was what could only be described as a little dragon girl. She appeared to be maybe 8 or 9 years old in human terms, though her delicate features and the small horns protruding from her forehead marked her as clearly non-human. Her scales were a lighter green than the massive dragon's, almost silver in the filtered sunlight. She wore a simple dress that looked like it had been woven from the same luminescent vines that covered the trees. The child dragon was looking at him with large, golden eyes that held far too much intelligence and sadness for someone so young. "You're human," she said in perfect standard galactic, her voice carrying that musical quality that Marcus had learned to associate with highly advanced species. "I can smell it on you. The iron and carbon and all those interesting chemicals humans make when they're scared." Marcus slowly raised his hands, showing he carried no weapons. In truth, his sidearm was holstered at his hip, but Drawing it would be pointless against creatures this powerful. I'm not here to hurt anyone, he said carefully. My name is Marcus. What's yours? The little dragon tilted her head, studying him with those ancient-looking eyes. I am Zephyr, daughter of Ethermere, the star speaker. She gestured toward the massive, sleeping dragon. That is my mama. She's been sleeping for 7 cycles now, and I can't wake her up. 7 cycles. Marcus did the mental math. On Nexus Prime, a cycle was roughly equivalent to 28 standard days. The dragon had been unconscious for almost 7 months. What happened to her? Zephyr's expression darkened. The Void Seekers came. They hurt her with their poison weapons before the council drove them away. The healers tried to help, but she gestured helplessly at the crystalline growth on her mother's side. Nothing works. The poison keeps spreading, and Mama keeps getting weaker. The Void Seekers. Marcus felt a cold rage building in his chest. He knew that name all too well. They were a cult of fanatics who believed that all biological life was an aberration that needed to be corrected into pure energy. They had been responsible for the genocide on 3 colony worlds before the combined fleets of 6 species had driven them into the Outer Rim. If they were back, the healers said she would die soon. Zephyr continued, her voice barely above a whisper. They said to prepare for the final goodbye. But I want to say goodbye. Mama is all I have left. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. He had seen too many children orphaned by war, too many families destroyed by violence. But there was something about this little dragon girl, sitting alone next to her dying mother, that hit him harder than most. Zephyr, he said gently, why did you think I might be able to help? The little dragon looked up at him with those impossibly old eyes. Because humans are the fixers, she said simply. That's what everyone says. When something is broken beyond repair, when all hope is lost, humans find a way. They don't follow rules like other species do. They make new rules. Marcus almost smiled despite the situation. It was true that humans had gained a reputation throughout the galaxy as stubborn problem solvers. While other species might accept that something was impossible, humans had an annoying tendency to prove them wrong. It had gotten them into trouble more than once, but it had also saved entire civilizations. I'm not a doctor, Marcus said honestly. I'm a soldier. I fix problems by breaking things, not healing them. Zephyr's face fell for a moment, then brightened again. But you came here, to this place that doesn't exist on any maps. You found us when no one else could. Maybe, she looked at her mother, then back at him. Maybe you can find a way when no one else can. Marcus walked closer to the massive dragon, studying the wound and the crystal growth. His military scanner was practically screaming warnings about radiation levels and unknown energy signatures. Whatever the Void Seekers had hit her with, it wasn't just poison. It was some kind of technobiological weapon designed to convert living tissue into something else entirely. Has anyone tried cutting it out? He asked. Zephyr nodded sadly. The healers tried everything. Cutting, burning, magic, technology from a dozen different species. Nothing works. The crystal grows back faster than they can remove it, and each time they try, it spreads further. Marcus knelt down and pulled out his field medical kit. It was designed for human physiology, but some principles of medicine were universal. He activated a small scanner and ran it over the crystalline growth. What he saw made his blood run cold. The crystal wasn't just growing randomly. It was following specific pathways through the dragon's body, targeting her nervous system and energy centers with surgical precision. This wasn't just a weapon of destruction. It was a conversion tool, slowly transforming the dragon into something that would serve the Void Seeker's twisted vision of perfected life. Son of a... Marcus caught himself before finishing the curse in front of the child. This is sophisticated, really sophisticated. Zephyr crept closer. What does that mean? Marcus stood up and began pacing, his mind racing. It means this isn't random poison. Someone designed this specifically to target your mother's species. They studied dragon physiology, learned how your energy systems work, and created a weapon tailored to corrupt them. But that's impossible, Zephyr said. Dragons are one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Our biology is completely different from the Void Seekers. How could they know how we work? Marcus stopped pacing and looked at her. Someone told them. Someone with access to detailed biological data on dragons. The implications hit both of them at the same time. There was a traitor somewhere in the galactic community, someone feeding information to the Void Seekers about how to target specific species. The attack on Zephyr's mother hadn't been random. It had been a test run. We need to get this sample to someone who can analyze it, Marcus said, pulling out a containment unit from his kit. But first, he walked over to his backpack and pulled out a small device that looked like a cross between a scanner and a transmitter. It was one of his personal modifications, something he had built during his years of dealing with alien technology. "What is that?" Zephyr asked. "Something I probably shouldn't have," Marcus admitted. "It's a quantum resonance mapper. It can analyze energy patterns and find ways to disrupt them. If this crystal is using some kind of energy signature to maintain its structure." He activated the device and pointed it at the crystal growth. Numbers and waveforms scrolled across the small screen as it analyzed the alien technology. "Got it," Marcus muttered. "The crystal is maintained by a specific quantum frequency. If I can generate an inverse wave, you can destroy it?" Zephyr's voice was filled with sudden hope. "Maybe," Marcus said cautiously, "but there's a risk. If I get the frequency wrong, or if the crystal has safeguards I don't know about, it could accelerate the conversion process. Your mother could." He didn't finish the sentence, but Zephyr understood. "She could die faster." Marcus nodded grimly. "I need you to understand. I'm not a miracle worker. I'm just a soldier with some unusual equipment and a stubborn refusal to accept that something can't be fixed. But if we don't try, your mother's going to die anyway." Zephyr looked at her mother's still form, then back at Marcus. "In our culture," she said quietly, "we believe that the universe brings the right person to the right place at the right time. You came here for a reason, Marcus-chan. Maybe this is it." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He had made decisions that affected the lives of thousands of people during his military service, but somehow this felt bigger, more personal. Maybe it was the way Zephyr looked at him with such trust, or maybe it was the thought of one more innocent life lost to the Void Seeker's madness. "All right," he said finally. "Let's see if this human stubbornness is worth anything after all." He began adjusting the settings on his quantum resonance mapper, preparing to attempt something that was either brilliant or catastrophically stupid. In his experience, those two things often looked remarkably similar until after the fact. As he worked, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this was about more than just saving one dragon's life. The Void Seekers were testing their weapons, gathering data for something bigger. If he could figure out how their technology worked, maybe he could find a way to stop them before they struck again. But first, he had to keep a promise to a little dragon girl who believed that humans could fix anything. The quantum resonance mapper beeped softly, indicating it was ready. Marcus looked at Zephyr one more time. "Here we go," he said, and activated the device. The quantum resonance mapper hummed to life, its crystalline core glowing with an intense blue light. Marcus felt the device vibrating in his hands as it began generating the inverse frequency pattern he had calculated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the orange crystal growth on Ethermir's side began to flicker. Zephyr gasped, her small hands clasped together in front of her chest. "It's working." But Marcus frowned, watching the readouts on his scanner. The crystal was responding, but not in the way he had expected. Instead of simply dissolving, it was pulsing in a rhythmic pattern, almost like a heartbeat. The dark veins beneath Ethermir's scales were beginning to glow brighter. "Something's wrong," Marcus muttered, adjusting the frequency. "It's not breaking down, it's communicating." Before Zephyr could ask what he meant, the crystal suddenly flared with brilliant orange light. A sound filled the clearing that was part electronic screech and part organic roar. Ethermir's massive body convulsed, her head lifting slightly off her forepaws. "Mama!" Zephyr cried. running toward the dragon. Wait! Marcus grabbed the little dragon girl's arm, pulling her back. Look at her eyes. Ethermere's enormous golden eyes had opened, but they weren't looking at them. They were staring straight up at the sky, unfocused and filled with that same sickly orange glow as the crystal. When she spoke, her voice was like thunder, but the words weren't her own. The harvest approaches, she said in a flat, emotionless tone. The biological impurities will be corrected. Resistance is inefficient. Marcus felt ice water flood his veins. The crystal wasn't just poisoning the dragon. It was turning her into a void-seeker puppet. His attempt to disrupt it had triggered some kind of activation protocol. Mama, it's me. It's Zephyr, the little dragon cried, struggling against Marcus's grip. But Ethermere's glowing eyes fixed on them with no recognition. Biological entities detected. Beginning conversion process. The massive dragon began to rise, her movements jerky and unnatural like a marionette being controlled by an inexperienced puppeteer. The crystal growth on her side pulsed brighter, and Marcus could see similar growths beginning to emerge along her spine and wings. We need to get out of here, Marcus said, pulling out his sidearm. The weapon was a military-grade plasma pistol, but against something the size of Ethermere, it would be about as effective as throwing pebbles. No! Zephyr twisted out of his grasp and ran toward her mother. Mama, please. You have to fight it. You have to remember who you are. Ethermere's massive head swiveled toward the child, orange light flickering in her eyes. For just a moment, Marcus thought he saw something else there, a flicker of recognition, of pain, of a mother's love struggling against alien control. But then the crystal flared again, and the moment passed. Conversion target identified, Ethermere rumbled. Young biological specimen suitable for enhanced programming. She opened her mouth, and Marcus could see energy building in her throat. Not the natural dragon fire he had read about, but something else. Something that glowed with the same orange light as the crystal. Marcus didn't think. He couldn't afford to think. He simply acted. Diving forward, he tackled Zephyr, knocking her out of the way just as a beam of crystalline energy shot through the space where she had been standing. The beam struck a massive tree behind them, and Marcus watched in horror as the ancient trunk began to transform, bark, and would becoming the same orange crystal that was consuming Ethermere. The whole planet, he breathed, understanding flooding through him. They're not just testing weapons on individual targets. They're planning to convert entire worlds. Ethermere turned toward them again, moving with increasing coordination as the crystal network spread through her nervous system. Marcus grabbed Zephyr and ran, dodging between the massive trees as more conversion beams lanced out behind them. There has to be a way to stop it. Zephyr sobbed as they ran. Mama is still in there. I saw her fighting. Marcus's mind raced as they put distance between themselves and the converted dragon. The little dragon girl was right. There had been a moment when Ethermere had seemed to break through the control. If the conversion process wasn't complete yet, if there was still some part of her original consciousness fighting the alien programming. He stopped suddenly, pulling out his quantum resonance mapper again. Zephyr, I need you to tell me everything you know about your mother. Not just facts, emotional things. Memories that would be important to her. What? What? Zephyr wiped tears from her golden eyes, her small frame shaking. Because that crystal is a computer, Marcus explained quickly, his fingers flying over the device's controls. And computers can be hacked. But I need something to work with, some piece of data that means more to your mother than the alien programming. Behind them, they could hear Ethermere crashing through the forest, her conversion beams turning everything they touched into crystal. The sound of her voice echoed through the trees, still speaking in that flat, emotionless tone about efficiency and correction. I don't understand, Zephyr said desperately. Marcus knelt down to her level, looking into her eyes. Memories aren't just stored in our minds. They're tied to specific neural pathways, quantum signatures in our brains. If I can find the right frequency, I can amplify those pathways, make them stronger than whatever the Void Seekers are using to control her. Understanding dawned in Zephyr's eyes. You want to remind her who she is. Exactly. But I need to know what matters most to her. What would she fight hardest to protect? Zephyr closed her eyes, thinking quickly even as the sounds of destruction grew closer. She used to sing to me, she said finally, every night when I was small. It was an old dragon song, something her mother taught her. She said it was the most beautiful thing in the universe because it connected us to all the dragons who came before. Do you remember it? Every word. Zephyr's voice grew stronger. Every note. Marcus was already programming the quantum resonance mapper, converting the girl's description of the song into frequency patterns and emotional resonance signatures. It was largely guesswork, but he had learned to trust his instincts when it came to alien technology. Sing it, he said. Sing it as loud as you can, and let me record the quantum signature of your voice. If there's enough genetic similarity between you and your mother, her brain should recognize the pattern even through the conversion programming. Zephyr took a deep breath and began to sing. Her voice was high and sweet, carrying notes that seemed to harmonize with the very air around them. The floating spores in the forest began to glow brighter, and Marcus could swear he felt the massive trees swaying in rhythm with the melody. The quantum resonance mapper captured every nuance, analyzing the acoustic patterns and converting them into the kind of signal that could penetrate quantum-enhanced neural networks. As Zephyr sang, Marcus made rapid calculations, preparing to broadcast the signal on a frequency that would resonate with dragon brain chemistry. The sound of approaching destruction suddenly stopped. Marcus looked up to see Ethermere emerging from between the trees, moving more smoothly now as the conversion process continued. But there was something different in her posture. She had stopped firing conversion beams, and her massive head was tilted slightly, as if she was listening to something. It's working, Marcus whispered. Keep singing. Zephyr's voice grew stronger, the ancient dragon lullaby filling the forest with ethereal beauty. The orange glow in Ethermere's eyes flickered, and, for a moment, they returned to their natural golden color. Zephyr. The dragon's voice was her own again, confused and full of pain. My little star, what has happened? Why do I feel so strange? Mama. Zephyr started to run toward her, but Marcus caught her again. Wait, he said urgently. The conversion isn't complete, but it's not gone either. I can see the crystal network still spreading. We need to remove the source before it regains control. As if summoned by his words, the orange glow began to return to Ethermere's eyes. Her voice became flat again as she spoke. Emotional manipulation detected. Increasing control protocols. Conversion will proceed. But this time, there was something else, a note of strain, as if two voices were fighting for control of the same body. Zephyr run came Ethermere's true voice, breaking through the alien programming for just a moment. I cannot hold it much longer. Save yourself, my precious child. No! Zephyr broke free from Marcus's grip and ran toward her mother. I won't leave you. Not ever. Marcus swore and followed her, his mind racing through possibilities. The quantum resonance mapper had proven that emotional connections could disrupt the Void Seeker programming, but only temporarily. He needed something more permanent, something that could actually destroy the crystal network. Then, he remembered something from his military files, a report about a Void Seeker ship that had been destroyed when its own conversion beam had been reflected back at it. The technology they used was incredibly powerful, but it had a critical flaw. It couldn't convert itself. Zephyr, he called out as he ran. Can your mother breathe fire? Real dragon fire, not the conversion beam. Of course she can. Zephyr replied without slowing down. She's a star speaker. She can burn through anything, even through crystal that's part of her own body. Zephyr stopped running and turned to stare at him, understanding dawning in her golden eyes. You want her to burn out the infection herself. It's the only way, Marcus said grimly. But she has to do it willingly, and she has to fight through the programming long enough to complete the process. If the conversion beam activates instead of her natural fire, he didn't need to finish. They both understood that one mistake would turn Ethermere into a fully converted Void Seeker weapon. They had reached the dragon now, close enough to see the constant struggle playing out in her massive features. Her golden eyes flickered between natural and orange. Her breathing was labored, and the crystal growths were visibly spreading with each passing moment. "Mama," Zephyr said softly, placing her small hand on one of Ethermere's massive claws. "I need you to listen to me. The bad crystals are making you sick, but you can burn them out. You just have to remember who you are." "Zephyr." Ethermere's voice was strained, barely her own. "I can feel it taking my thoughts, changing my memories. Soon there will be nothing left of me." Marcus stepped forward, his quantum resonance mapper still active. "Not if you don't let it happen. You're a mother protecting her child. That's the strongest force in the universe, stronger than any alien technology." The orange glow flared in Ethermere's eyes again, and when she spoke, it was with the flat Void Seeker voice. "Emotional bonds are inefficient. They will be corrected." But Zephyr just smiled and began singing again, the ancient lullaby rising through the forest like a prayer made of music. This time, Marcus boosted the signal with his quantum resonance mapper, amplifying the emotional resonance until it became a feedback loop of love and memory. Ethermere's massive body convulsed as two opposing forces fought for control of her mind. The crystal growths pulsed wildly, spreading faster but also becoming unstable as the dragon's natural healing systems began to resist them. "Now, Mama," Zephyr cried, "burn them out. Save yourself so we can be together." For a moment that felt like eternity, nothing happened. Then, Ethermere's eyes blazed with golden fire, not the orange light of conversion, but the pure flame of a dragon's soul. She opened her mouth, and instead of a conversion beam, true dragon fire poured forth. But she didn't direct it outward. Instead, she turned that terrible, beautiful flame inward, burning away the crystal growths with surgical precision even as they tried to spread through her body. The pain must have been unimaginable, but her love for her daughter burned brighter than any agony. Marcus watched in awe as the ancient dragon used her own fire to cleanse the alien infection from her body, cell by cell, crystal by crystal. It was the most courageous thing he had ever witnessed. The dragon fire burned for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Marcus watched through his scanner as the crystal network in Ethermere's body crumbled under the assault of her natural flames. The orange glow faded from her eyes, replaced by tears of liquid gold that steamed as they hit the forest floor. When the fire finally died down, Ethermere collapsed on her side, her massive frame shuddering with exhaustion. The crystal growths were gone, leaving behind patches of scarred but healthy scale. She was weak, possibly dying from the effort, but she was herself again. "Mama." Zephyr scrambled up onto her mother's great head, hugging the space between her eyes. "You did it. You saved yourself." Ethermere's voice was barely a whisper, but it was entirely her own. "My brave little star. I heard your song even in the darkness. It brought me home." Marcus knelt beside the dragon's massive head, his medical scanner showing readings he didn't like. Ethermere's life signs were dropping rapidly. The effort of burning out the crystal infection had drained her beyond her reserves. "She's still dying," he said quietly to Zephyr. "The damage was too extensive. I'm sorry." But Zephyr shook her head firmly. "No, we saved her from the crystals, but now we need to heal her. And I know how." The little dragon girl slid down from her mother's head and began pulling something from a pouch at her waist. It was a small, perfectly round stone that seemed to contain swirling galaxies within its depths. "A dragon heart stone," Ethermere whispered, her eyes widening. "Child, where did you get such a thing?" "You gave it to me when I was born," Zephyr said simply. "You said it was part of your own heart, crystallized by dragon fire and love. You told me to keep it safe until I needed it most." Marcus felt his breath catch. He had read about dragon heart stones in the military databases. They were legendary even among dragon kind, formed only when an adult dragon willingly gave up part of their own life force to protect their young. The stones contained vast amounts of healing energy, but using one meant the parent could never create another. Zephyr, no. Ethermere protested weakly. That stone is for you, for when you're grown and need to create your own family. I cannot let you waste it on me. It's not wasted if it saves the most important person in my world, Zephyr replied, her young voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. Besides, you taught me that love multiplies when it's shared, not divided. The little dragon girl pressed the stone against her mother's chest, just over her heart. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the stone began to glow with a warm, golden light that made the converted trees around them seem dark by comparison. Marcus watched in amazement as the light spread through Ethermere's body, following the same pathways the crystal infection had used, but replacing corruption with healing. Scales regrew, internal damage repaired itself, and the dragon's breathing became strong and steady. But something else was happening too. As the healing energy flowed between mother and daughter, Marcus could see through his quantum scanner that their life forces were becoming synchronized, permanently intertwined in a way that went beyond simple biology. They're bonding, he realized aloud. Not just emotionally, but on a quantum level. They're becoming two parts of the same system. When the light finally faded, both dragons were changed. Ethermere was not only healed, but somehow more vital than before, her scales gleaming with inner fire. And Zephyr no longer looked quite so young. There was an ancient wisdom in her eyes now, as if she had inherited some of her mother's centuries of experience. "How do you feel, Mama?" Zephyr asked, though the answer was obvious from Ethermere's radiant appearance. "Like I have been reborn," the great dragon replied, rising to her full, magnificent height. "But more than that, I feel connected, as if part of your brightness has become part of me, just as part of my strength has become yours." Marcus cleared his throat, drawing their attention back to more practical matters. "I hate to interrupt this family moment, but we have a bigger problem. That crystal in your mother wasn't just a weapon. It was also a transmitter. The Void Seekers now have detailed biological data about dragon physiology, and they know their conversion process works." Ethermere's expression darkened. "They will use this knowledge against other dragons, against all the species that have taken refuge on this world." "That's exactly what they'll do," Marcus confirmed, "unless we stop them first." He pulled out a data crystal from his equipment pack and handed it to Ethermere. "I recorded everything, the conversion process, the quantum signatures, the way we disrupted it. If we can get this to the Galactic Council, they can develop countermeasures before the Void Seekers launch their next attack." "The Council moves slowly," Ethermere said grimly. "By the time they analyze the data and make decisions, entire worlds could fall. Which is why we're not going to the Council first," Marcus said with a grim smile. "We're going directly to the source." Both dragons stared at him. "What do you mean?" Zephyr asked. Marcus activated a holographic display from his equipment, showing a star map of the local sector. "Before I retired, I was part of a classified project tracking Void Seeker movements. We never found their main base, but we identified several research facilities. If they're testing biological weapons, they'll have a lab somewhere with samples from multiple species. You want to attack a Void Seeker facility?" Ethermere's voice carried both admiration and concern. "That would be a suicide mission for most beings." "Good thing I'm not most beings," Marcus replied. "And I won't be going alone. I'll have a very angry dragon for backup." Ethermere's laugh was like controlled thunder. "Indeed you will, Marcus-chun. The Void Seekers made a grave mistake when they targeted my daughter and myself. Dragons have long memories, and we do not forgive easily." "But, Mama," Zephyr said uncertainly, "won't it be dangerous? What if they have more of those crystal weapons?" "Then we'll be ready for them," Marcus said, patting his quantum resonance mapper. We know how their technology works now. More importantly, we know how to turn it against them. He began outlining his plan. The nearest Void Seeker research facility was 3 days away by fast ship. It would be heavily defended, but most of those defenses were designed to stop conventional attacks, not a coordinated assault by a human special forces veteran and an enraged Starspeaker dragon. We go in fast and hard, Marcus explained. Ethermere provides the firepower to breach their defenses while I infiltrate the facility and plant quantum resonance disruptors throughout their systems. If we can trigger a cascade failure in their crystal network, the entire base will convert itself into harmless minerals. And their research data? Ethermere asked. Destroyed along with everything else. They'll lose years of work and any samples they've collected from other species. Zephyr looked between the human and her mother, her golden eyes bright with determination. I want to come too. Absolutely not, both adults said simultaneously. This is too dangerous, Ethermere continued. You will stay here on Nexus Prime, where it is safe. But Zephyr shook her head stubbornly. Mama, you just taught me that love multiplies when it's shared. The Void Seekers hurt you because they want to hurt me too. They want to convert all the children on all the refuge worlds. This isn't just about us anymore. Marcus felt a familiar weight settling on his shoulders. The little dragon girl was right, and he knew it. This was about more than revenge or even preventing future attacks. It was about sending a message to the Void Seekers and anyone else who might target the innocent, that there were beings in the galaxy willing to fight back no matter the odds. She's right, he said finally. And besides, she's the only one who knows the resonance frequency that broke through the conversion programming. If we encounter other converted beings, we might need her help to free them. Ethermere was quiet for a long moment, studying her daughter's determined expression. You understand that this will be dangerous beyond measure? That we might not return. I understand that letting the Void Seekers continue their work would be even more dangerous, Zephyr replied. You always told me that dragons protect those who cannot protect themselves. Well, I'm a dragon too now, thanks to the Heartstone bond. It's time I acted like one. Marcus smiled despite himself. The little dragon girl reminded him of himself at that age, too stubborn to back down from what she believed was right, even when it scared her. All right then, we'll need to modify the plan to keep you safe, but welcome to the team, Zephyr. Over the next hour, they refined their strategy. Marcus would use his military contacts to acquire a fast ship capable of reaching the Void Seeker facility without being detected. Ethermere would practice coordinating her dragonfire with his quantum resonance technology, creating a combination that could punch through any defense the Void Seekers might deploy. And Zephyr would work on extending her song-based disruption technique to affect multiple targets at once. As they prepared to leave the Whispering Grove, Marcus took one last look at the place where he had first encountered the small dragon girl and her dying mother. It seemed impossible that just hours ago he had been a retired soldier with nothing but old memories and older scars. Now he was part of a family, bound to these magnificent beings by shared purpose and mutual trust. Ready, Marcus? Ethermere asked, her great wings unfurling in preparation for flight. Almost, Marcus replied, making final adjustments to his equipment. Just checking to make sure my gear can handle atmospheric exit and re-entry. It's been a while since I've ridden a dragon into combat. Zephyr giggled, the sound like crystal bells in the wind. You've never ridden a dragon into combat, silly. You're human. True, Marcus admitted with a grin. I guess I'll just have to learn as I go. Wouldn't be the first time. As they took to the skies, leaving Nexus Prime behind for the dangerous journey ahead, Marcus reflected on how his life had changed in the course of a single day. He had come to this world following rumors and half-formed leads, hoping to find purpose in his retirement. Instead, he had found something much more valuable, proof that the universe still had room for miracles. The little dragon girl had been right when she said that humans were fixers, beings who refused to accept that something couldn't be repaired. But she had also taught him something new, that sometimes the best way to fix something broken was to become part of a new family, one bound not by blood but by choice and shared conviction. Behind them, Nexus Prime shrank to a point of light among the stars. Ahead lay danger, uncertainty, and the very real possibility of failure. But Marcus found himself looking forward to the challenge. After all, he was no longer just a human with unusual equipment and stubborn determination. He was part of Dragon family now, and Dragon families protected each other, no matter what the universe threw at them. As they entered hyperspace, heading toward their confrontation with the Void Seekers, Zephyr's voice carried over the rush of cosmic wind. "Thank you, Marcus, for saving Mama, for believing in us, for becoming part of our family." "Thank you," Marcus replied, meaning every word, "for reminding me what I was fighting for all those years. I just never realized it until now." The stars streaked past as they flew toward an uncertain future, but for the first time in years, Marcus felt truly alive. Whatever happened next, he would face it alongside beings who had chosen him as family. And in a universe full of darkness, that was worth fighting for. The Void Seekers were about to learn what happened when they threatened a human's adopted family. It was going to be a lesson they would never forget, assuming any of them survived to remember it.